What would your life be like if you weren't afraid of other things knocking you down?
All right, in this video, we're going to talk about trust. It's such a monumental topic. And what I've learned through all my years in personal development, everything I've done in coaching, is that if you want to live a stable life, you cannot source your trust from other people. Otherwise, everything that you want in your life, your success, your happiness, your joy, your connection, your love, all the things that are deeply meaningful as humans are going to be in other people's hands. So this is going to be a massively profound conversation for you in your own personal life, obviously as a coach to help other people deal with their trust issues, which are so rampant out there. And one of the things I want to share with you is a quote that I think will completely shift the way you see not just trust, but emotional stability. And listen to the whole conversation, because you never know where or when that golden nugget that's meant for you is going to show up in the discussion.
What word comes to mind, or what state comes to mind when you think of trust? That's an interesting question, because I think most people have either a negative connotation to trust or tender relationship to trust. And I think most people are not all in when it comes to the idea of trust. So before we even get into all this stuff, it's really critical that you think of your perspective of trust, because then everything I'm going to say, I want you to view through that perspective. So if trust to you is cautious, if trust means being emotionally safe with somebody else, if trust means something to be afraid of, then everything that I say, you're going to take it through that lens. That's why it's so critical to do self-inventory. What do I think of love? What do I think of money? Then it will be more meaningful to you individually, rather than just having these concepts that I talk about hopefully land. I want these concepts that I talk about grab you with your own perspective. So I want to start with a quote. It's my favorite quote when it comes to trust, and one of my favorite quotes in general. Some of you may have seen it. We post it every once in a while on our social media platforms. It's in the binders and our certification programs. And it's because this idea of trust is so critical. The quote is this: "A bird sitting on a tree is never afraid of the branch breaking, because its trust is not in the branch, but in its own wings." I mean, damn, right? Damn. A bird is not afraid of the branch breaking because its trust is not in the branch. Its trust is in its own wings. I mean, maybe we could just be done with that, right? I mean, to me at least, it's such a profound quote. And yet, almost everybody is trusting the branch. And if your trust is in the branch, then you need to know which branches won't break. I mean, imagine if the bird is flying around, wings tired, but doesn't know what branch to land on, because the bird is trying to decide which branch is not going to break before it lands on the branch. How do you do that? How do you look at a branch and predetermine whether it's going to break or not? So then maybe you say, oh, well, the big branches won't break. Some of the big branches are hollow inside. They might be the ones that break the fastest. Or maybe the branches that are higher in the tree or lower in the tree. Here's what I've learned about life. Whatever you think, whatever we think will predetermine, or the traits that we're looking for that's going to guarantee that the branch won't break, the more that we think the traits mean the branch won't break, the more likely it will break. And some branches have become really good at disguising their strength. They disguise their strength so the birds will land on them, and then they break. Obviously, I think you can tell in the analogy of life, we're talking about people, obviously. We're not talking about branches. But it's the same concept. Where is your trust? But when most of us are searching for external means of trust and external sources of trust, we're in trouble. We're in trouble because the people who are least trustworthy are the best deceivers. They're the best deceivers. One of the conversations in relationships right now that I hear about all the time, at least, and words, is narcissist. So I actually didn't even know what that was until about, I don't know, a year ago, and I just kept hearing it over and over and over again. So I looked it up, and it means somebody that's so self-involved and doesn't care about anybody else and doesn't have any compassion and stuff like that. But if you take a look at the relationship conversation around narcissists, most of the conversation, almost all of it, is how to spot narcissists. But see, that's not an empowering conversation. You know why? Because narcissists are the best liars. Narcissists are professional deceivers. If they weren't the best deceivers on the planet, they couldn't continue their craft. So you wouldn't have to worry about them anyway. It's really difficult to spot the liars in a group of professional liars. It's really difficult. And if your goal is to spot the professional liars, then your default response will be everybody is a liar and everybody is dangerous. And I don't know about you, but to me, that's not the way to live. That's not the way to live openly. That's not the way to live in love. You're living in danger. And then everybody around is a potential threat if the whole focus is on who's going to hurt me. Who can I not trust? And see, when most people ask, who can I trust? That's not the question they're actually asking. The question they're actually asking is, who can I not trust so that I don't get hurt again? So underneath the surface, most people are living in hurt, pain, and not trust. And that's why everybody is dangerous and so many people walk around with armor on. Because if everybody's a threat, then you have to be defensive or go on the attack so they don't hurt you first, right? That's because people source their trust in other people. And if you want to live a stable life, you cannot do that unless your life's mission is to be able to spot the liars. I guarantee you that's not your life's purpose. I guarantee you it's not your life's purpose. So don't make that your goal. Don't make that your mission on this planet, is to make sure you identify who's dangerous. Because as you go around constantly asking who's dangerous and trying to avoid the dangerous ones, you're perpetually telling yourself you cannot be trusted. Is the trust in the branch or is the trust in the wings? Instead of trying to identify who's going to lie to you, trust yourself so much that you will respond when they do. And I would rather you just decide you will get lied to. People will deceive you. Why? Because that's what people do. That's not what every human does. But in the collection of humanity, one of the things that is a common thread is deception. Now, they are usually, and by usually I mean always, not deceiving you. They're deceiving themselves and you are involved. But when people are so afraid of being lied to, watch this word, this is the key word, again. When people are so afraid of being left, again. When you're afraid of being abandoned, again. When you're afraid of being hurt, again. Then the defenses go up. And the fear of re-experiencing the pain that surely hasn't been addressed and reconciled and expressed, otherwise you wouldn't be so scared of protecting it. That fear of re-experiencing the pain will cause you to not experience the love that's available all around you and, most importantly, inside you. So trust is an inside game. Don't try to find who is dangerous and then avoid the danger. And this isn't only with people, it's circumstances as well. A lot of us don't trust ourselves in our achievement. We don't trust ourselves in setting goals anymore. We don't trust ourselves in signing up for commitments like losing weight or building a business or doing anything that is forward moving. A lot of us don't trust the process anymore because the process hurt us once upon a time. And as long as trust is external, we are disempowered. So instead of asking yourself, how can I avoid the dangers? I want you to shift to knowing that the trust is in your wings, knowing that when you get knocked down, and you will, if you move at all in life, you will fall. So don't try to build up your preparation so that you'll never fall again. Don't work on not falling. Work on getting back up. And that might sound like it's almost the same thing. It might sound like it's a small shift. I'm telling you, it's everything. Because if you work on getting back up, then you can't be afraid of falling. If you only work on not falling, then you have to be afraid of everything. Because everything that could potentially lead to a fall is now dangerous, and that's everything. That's every relationship, that's every opportunity. You'll never allow yourself to take risks if your main commitment is to avoid falling. So there's a huge difference between picture yourself and your life as far as personal development and achievement is concerned. Imagine you're walking on a balance beam. What most people are trying to do is make sure they never fall off the beam. The way to do it is probably don't move. That's the way to do it. Because if you move, you run the risk of losing your balance. And definitely you can't do any tricks and you can't, win any contests because nobody won a contest by just standing still on the balance beam. So the power is not in learning how to not fall off the beam. The power is learning that when you fall off, you know how to get back up on it. And as long as you know that you trust yourself in getting back up, then the failure can't scare you. Listen to what I'm saying. It's not that you need to have ways to combat the failure or the fear of the failure. The fear can't exist. If you trust yourself to get back up, how can you be afraid of falling down? If you trust your wings, how can you be afraid of the branch breaking? When the branches break, and they will, you will fly. You have wings. Every single one of us has wings in our life in the form of us being able to recover, us being able to get back up. That's where your trust has to be. Now, why do most people not want to build that kind of trust? Because it involves a mirror. Yeah, it involves the thing that scares us the most, which is essentially our own reflection. But that's where the liberation is. That's where our freedom actually is when we go inside and find our courage, our bravery, our trust in us, not trying to get it from other people. So what would your life be like if you weren't afraid of other things knocking you down? What risks would you now be taking if you weren't afraid of failing? Because you knew that even if those things fail, and I love to change if to when, I would rather you be prepared for the when and have it not happen than be unprepared for the if and have it happen. That's what most people are doing. They're trying to perfect themselves so much to avoid failure. And the process of personal development is probably 99% failure if we define failure as the expectations that we have not being met. So if the process is 99% failure and you're trying to protect yourself from failure, then you're protecting yourself from the process. And then the other end of the process and during the process is growth. So trust is all about you. Here's my invitation to you. I want you to ask yourself, what can I trust in me? And all you got to do is look back. And if you're listening to these words, if you're watching these videos, then you've never actually been knocked down to the point where you haven't gotten back up. You are undefeated. So in your past, there has never been anything that literally killed you. There has never been anything that you haven't gotten up from. Now, you might feel like you're still reeling from a past relationship or from a past failure, but you're up, which means you can get up again. And trust is really just a single moment. You don't need to trust for the rest of your life. You just need to trust yourself in the next single moment. When you get knocked down, can I trust myself to get back up? And all you have to do is look at the millions of pieces of evidence in your past where you've done exactly that. That's how you move the trust from the branch to the wings. This goes for everything. This goes for people lying to you. This goes for getting hurt in relationships. This goes for abandonment. This goes for failure. This goes for experiencing traumas. It goes for everything. We need to not be afraid of the human experience, which is what most of us are doing. We're trying to avoid the human experience. We need to not be afraid of the human experience by reminding ourselves, no matter what happens to us as humans, we have the ability to get back up. So the question essentially is, do you trust yourself or do you trust your self-protection? That's it. That's the simplicity. And if your trust is in your self-protection, then you're cutting off everybody and everything, because you can't protect yourself and connect with the world. There's no connection in protection. So if I'm protecting me from you, that means I'm protecting you from me. I feel a poem coming on here, which means I need to keep everybody out, and that's not the way to live. So remind yourself of all the times you've gotten back up and write a little love letter to yourself, or just write a sentence over and over again and share it with me here. I trust myself to blank because blank. I trust myself to recover from financial issues because when I had to file bankruptcy in 2009, I got back up. And in a short period of time, I was successful again. I trust myself to get over emotional issues because when I experienced the abandonment as a junior in high school, I got back up and I ended up finding the love of my life a few years later. I trust myself to be with myself outside of my identities because the time that I spend alone actually recharges me more than the time I spend doing things. So I trust myself with blank, blank, or blank, because that's what I want you to embody here. So many fears are about, what if I lose everything? Well, what if you do? A lot of us have lost everything and we rebuilt it. So why would we be afraid of doing it again? And that the liberation in that is insanely powerful. And this is like a breathtaking conversation. I mean, do I trust in the branch or do I trust in the wings? Do I trust in avoiding the dangers of others or do I trust in myself? That I can get back up when humans do what humans do. Beautiful. And then you're open to it. And anything that you're open to doesn't have control over you. So if you believe that there will be people who lie to you, you've already decided that that will happen and you're going to be okay when it does, then two things happen. There's less likelihood that people will lie to you because you're not afraid of it, and there's 100% chance that if it happens and when it happens, you'll be okay anyway. And that's the way to live life.
Now, if you like this video, check out that video where we talk about how to take fear inside your clients and turn it into action.
Like, fear is not false evidence appearing real. Fear is real.